gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Leadership Plus with Dr. G. This is the podcast where we keep it real about what it takes to lead, grow, and inspire others to be their absolute best. And I'm so delighted that I get to be your host. Thank you for joining me. I am so excited about today's conversation and today's guest. As you can see on my screen, I have with me Esquire Bryan Farr. Did I get that all right? So many names, right? Welcome, Althea. Welcome to Leadership Plus with Dr. G.
It is a joy to be here, and I am most grateful to share this space with you for hopefully quality moments where we can unpack.
Yep. Unpacked, that's for sure. And ladies and gentlemen, if you know nothing about this woman, she is bold, she's brilliant. And you will learn really quickly all of whom Althea Bryan Farr is. And I'm just so excited to have you. So I tell you what, I always tell my audience, Althea, everybody needs to go ahead and grab their coffee, grab their tea, or I like to say whatever fuels their greatness. I don't know if you have something beside you that fuels your greatness. Is it 5 o'clock somewhere?
It is. Absolutely
right?
is.
And then we're going to get on with our chat. All right. So, Althea.
Yes.
Althea. I am going to let you start us off, right? Because today we're going to be talking about, just bold leadership, self-leadership, resilience, innovation, somebody who knows how to pivot, who's constantly growing and constantly learning and constantly doing just amazing things. And when I think about all of those words, I think about you. And you're going to share your story with us today. And I want you to start off by just telling us who you are. Tell us who you are, where you came from. How did we get to this point?
Well, my name is Althea Bryan Farr, and I am a mother. I am a wife. And in my professional life, I get to function as an attorney, and I am a registered nurse also. I hail from the beautiful parish of Portland, Jamaica, and
I have to interrupt you there. The beautiful parish of St. Anne, Jamaica, but I'll allow you to go ahead and take number 2. Go ahead.
I'm the guest, so I think I get, to say. So I hail from Portland, Jamaica, Eastern Portland, and I am a proud student of the Titchfield High School, where I spent many years as a, high school student. Grew up where my elementary years I spent at our local all-age school called Manchinial All-Age, which is located in Eastern Portland. Grew up in a very strict Christian home to parents who were ministers. My mother was a female minister, and my dad was a lay preacher with 3 siblings, I'll say. And of course, other sisters and brothers, half sisters, those of you who come from Jamaica, we all have, not we all, but half sisters and brothers are a part of our life and part of the family dynamic. And of course, part of that is that we do not consider them to be half sisters. As far as I'm concerned, they are my full blood sisters, and love them dearly and have contributed amazingly to my growth. And they've mentored, and to this day they are part of my tribe. So that's basically my background. I am a Jamaican at heart, and now living in the United States. I'm living in Florida specifically, where I get to practice both of my crafts, albeit in different spheres. As a registered nurse, I'm no longer in the hospital setting where I led previously as a nurse manager. I now practice as an attorney, and I get to practice in areas that I thoroughly enjoy: health law, of course. I have a certificate in health law. That was a certificate I took while I was as in addition to my law degree. So that's a little snippet of who I am.
That's amazing. First of all, I have to go back, right? I have to rewind the tape a little bit because you just talked about, moving from nursing and now you're a lawyer, Althea. Share with us what made you go into nursing in the first place, right? And then after you got into nursing, what was it about that profession, or what was it that was happening in your space in your life that made you I think I want more, and go all the way back to law school? Because you're talking about a whole different career. We're not even talking about in the same medical field or anything. You went completely left field, even though, like you said, you're using it to practice. Talk to us about how you got there and why in the first place.
I initially started out, and a part of my story, which I did not mention, or my background, and how I met you, Shernet, was I was a student, which I did not mention, a student at what we call the College of Arts, Science and Technology in Jamaica. Now known as UTech, University of Technology in Kingston, Jamaica, which is, and I was a chemical technology student, and that came through, that period of my life was very traumatic, turbulent. It was a time where my family, we experienced the trauma of losing my mother. Mm-hmm. And those years were terrible memories for me. And so we, as a family, again, my tribe, after experiencing the death of my mother and me being extremely miserable in a career choice, which I turned out to absolutely not enjoy, mm-hmm. We determined that, moving to the States was the best thing for myself because of the challenges that we were encountering as a family, having endured the loss of my mom. I was a teenager. My middle sister was also a teenager, and my younger sister was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. So we lost our mother very early. And we determined that it was best for me to also migrate to relatives here who could play a role in terms of our nurturing, but also assist with getting over the loss of a parent or loss of my mother. Mm-hmm. And so as I transitioned to the United States, I decided or felt like I was going to continue that degree, which was a chemical engineering degree, which would be the degree that I would follow up with. And it turned out that nothing worked. Nothing went well. There were challenges on every hand. And I'm as a person who was raised in the church and a person of faith, during those years had to really rely on my trust in God to bring me through. And so what resulted out of that was me feeling that nursing was a career path that I could take. I did not necessarily need to complete all of the prerequisites because I transferred credits when I came here as an international student. And then it turned out that my choice for nursing school was almost as if that it was the path that I should have taken. Mm-hmm. Not that it was easy, but life became manageable and things flow, mm-hmm. or things began to take form. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that, okay, I have a science background, nursing school, was the option at the time. And so I just decided that I would, pursue this degree, which is at another school where you and I,
our paths kept crossing, didn't it? Right? Our paths kept crossing. It was meant to
Florida Atlantic University, the Florida Atlantic University. Go Owls. and for a short period at Broward College, before I transitioned. And so I completed my BSN at FAU and entered into the field of nursing with lots of trepidation in my heart about caring for patients, but I did. And so that turned out to be a career path that I followed in the clinical setting for 20 years, starting as a floor nurse on a telefloor, dabbling in between, doing stints in a nursing home, and then formally working in the clinical setting as a telenurse for a very brief period, and then in the ICU setting. And that became my path. And so nursing opened doors to leadership. It opened doors to so many opportunities, and I blossomed in nursing, to be very honest. If that's the way I could explain it, it became a career path that was an area that I never thought I would even end up in,
Right.
but turned out to be probably one of the best decisions that I made, and launched me into a totally different sphere of life, with encounters as a leader. I was tapped very early as a nurse to be a charge nurse, and then assistant nurse manager, then nurse manager, which I functioned as a nurse manager for almost 10 years, and prior to that as an assistant nurse manager. So it opened up my eyes to the world of leadership, and so many opportunities that I don't think we have the time to explore. But I think they'll be brought up as we speak.
As we speak, right? No, listen, people may see you today as, Esquire, right? A fully vetted, practicing, opened your own firm, by the way. Just we'll get into that in a few minutes. So you run your own practice, and they might not understand what your journey was like. You spent 20 years as a nurse, and even in that space, there are people who are listening to us right now. When we talk about leadership, they automatically assume you have to be some CEO of a corporation, or a president of a company, or a principal, or people automatically go to those kinds of managerial roles, and that's what they think about when you talk about leadership. But I heard you mention so many times how even in that space, you found ways to lead, to grow, to be in charge, to make decisions, right? And while you're doing that, you were vetting a career for yourself. Yet you did not stay. You talked about how amazing nursing was. Why on earth would you leave such a fulfilling role and make that shift into law? By the way, going back to law school, correct?
I did. I went back to law school. But if I might say, I would not coin it that way. I would say I never left. Okay. As a matter of fact, it augments my career as an attorney right now. However, after practicing nursing and being in the ICU setting for a number of years, my aptitude for advocacy became extremely high, and the draw to stand up for the weak, to stand up for the disenfranchised, to stand up for individuals during periods of their lives where all of the cards don't seem to be in their favor. My desire to be an advocate became even more. And if I want to be true to myself, during nursing school, I met a friend who introduced me to a book. And as I look back and in preparation for this, I see it's almost as if there are little capstones in my life that pop up. And here I was just visiting somebody's home, and there was a book that was just there called The Millionaire Next Door. And The Millionaire Next Door is by, I think the authors are Thomas J. Stanley and William Danko. And that book, when I tell you that book changed my life in a way that I cannot talk about, like a book that has influenced me without mentioning The Millionaire Next Door. Even though I continued in my nursing path, I was always aware in the back of my mind, like, how am I going to get to a lifestyle and to a place where I can marry this urge to help people, to advocate, but also have the tools where I can play a distinct role and be instrumental in ensuring that the things that I see that are wrong, that they can be fixed. Mm-hmm. In addition to wanting to live a life that is fulfilled, a life that is where, as you would say, where you reach that period of actualization, mm-hmm. and fulfill dreams that you have for yourself personally.
Right.
As I mentioned, my background, we're not rich. But we were in Jamaica. I guess we were not what you would consider poor. And so I've always wanted more for myself. And so while my goal was not to be rich, I also wanted to create a life for myself and for my family where we could do more. And law was one of those areas that was, in the forefront of my mind, where, I could use my nursing degree and I could be an effective advocate, mm-hmm. and bring about change while experiencing some sort of fulfillment for myself. I don't know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I was going to ask you, but I think you answered the question, and The Millionaire Next Door probably helped you with that, because it certainly took a certain kind of mindset shift to be able to say, you know what? While nursing, and especially coming from the Caribbean, we know that's a high flying profession. Many individuals come from Jamaica. They end up doing nursing in America, mm-hmm. and have built really great lives for themselves.
Yes.
We know this, but it must have taken a certain mindset shift for you to be able to go from, I want more, and how do I get there? And you talked a little bit about it, because the book that you mentioned helped you do that. Can you talk a little bit more about that mindset? Be intentional about what kind of mindset it takes for you to say, I'm going to walk away from a 20-year career in nursing, while you're saying you didn't really walk away because you're still advocating, you're still working in the field. But what kind of mindset shift did you have to go through? One, to go back to school, right? To go back to school again, to be a lawyer, and then to step into a different space in your career.
I think you have to take into consideration that you are probably wired a little different than some people, or mm-hmm. And I don't know what it means to be satisfied.
Right.
One of my mother's words that she abhorred and was not the word itself, she right. used frequently, mm-hmm. was mediocrity, mm-hmm. to the point where being mediocre was something that I did not want to be a part of my life. And so we know Jamaican parents, they have high ideals for their children. Mm-hmm. And so even though I lost my mom at a very early age, the sky was always the limit for her girls. She believed the best for us. She poured into us. We were made to feel that there is nothing that we couldn't achieve. Wow. And as a result, if it was something that was placed in now I realize in my spirit to do, and the opportunities came, I don't waste opportunities. And I don't want to come across as somebody who just, jump after every desire, but with serious planning, how I was going to transition from being in my role as a full-time nurse and at that time in management to go back to law school. So it was a lot of planning. It was a lot of consternation, like how is it going to affect my family? How is it going to affect my income? Like I'm accustomed to a certain income level at that point. What would it take to make this happen? And so it wasn't an individual decision. It was more so a collective decision where I had to speak to and discuss with my husband how we're going to navigate that whole space of caring for our son while I am gone many hours during the day to work, then to school, how I would function as a wife, having to navigate the space of knowing that I am leaving responsibilities to my husband. And he didn't ask for this. This is my dream. But as I always say, with careful planning and sharing your heart with your family and them having an understanding, whilst knowing, I knew going into law school that law school is a jealous lover. And that was something that a friend of mine said to me, like, why are you going to leave? Why are you going to go to law school? And I said, you know what? I can't shake it. This is something that I want to do. And I will tell you, for me, things lined up. I always take that gut check. And I also am very practical. And if I see how I can do it, you better believe I'm going to do it.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it. You mentioned a while ago that for you, things lined up, right? I know you to be a woman of faith, Althea, right? And I know that your journey also, while inspired by, just your mom's, I'm sure you hear her in your ears all day long, right? And while you've had that support system, I know you also believe that, God plays a really important role in lining things up. And when you step out on faith, like you said, you're not being callous, you're being strategic, you're thinking through what you need to do and making sure you do your part. But talk to us about how your faith has really helped you with, some of the transitions and the challenges, by the way, which I don't think people really understand all of the challenges that you have been through, starting from losing a mom, having to come to a whole new country just to be cared for. You came here as an international student. I don't know if people know what that even means, right? And here you are, right? So talk to us about what role faith has played in that what is with me in this mindset shift word, and also in where you are today.
I was raised as any, child from the Caribbean, Jamaica, where we're raised to have an understanding that there is a God that we worship. But I think for me, more so in a home where my mother was a pastor and my father a lay minister and family members who are dedicated believers. Sunday school was a part of life. Midweek service was a part of life. It was so ingrained in me. I think very early on when my faith journey began, I started to embrace the whole concept of what leading a Christ-centered life means. And I won't say I've always done it right. But I think something that was planted in me very early on as a child, and I recall specifically hearing my mother say, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all other things will be added unto you." Now, let me tell you, I don't know for anybody else. I believe that very early, and so I knew. At all times, irrespective of what was going on, God would make a way. My parents, their faith wasn't something that they had. It was something that they lived. I didn't have to wonder, why is it that my mother was one way in the pulpit, and then at home she was different? No. Her life was an example, and it was a life of faith. So was my dad. It was a life of faith. And so I was always in that surrounding. I have seen the provision of God in every area of my life. So when it came to that period where we lost our mother and life was now diverging into paths that we've never anticipated. All I had at that time was the fact that I was told, seek first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you.
Amen.
And so I grabbed on to my faith. I was still a student at CAS, and here I was dealing with a life-changing issue. And what got me through was my faith. It was my desire to constantly worship. I spent a lot of time in prayer. And one thing I will tell you about CAST at that time, we had a vibrant group of students who today are still lifelong friends. A group called UCCF, University and Colleges Christian Fellowship. Let me tell you, during that period in my life, my friends supported me. My school supported me. And so I saw community in action. I saw the church community. My mother was a pastor in the New Testament Church of God in Jamaica. And we saw the church show up. We saw our family come together. The fact that my relatives even felt it was right for us to migrate at that time. For me, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you. I did not know that my life was going to turn out the way it did at that point. It was a terrible time. However, it was a time where, you know what? We had to buckle down. We had to stand in our belief and ride the weather through. And so in every area of my life, not only those years, having a child who was ill and born with what is called an inborn metabolic error disease, a genetic disease. And again, my faith was tested. Providing during my years as international student, I'm so happy you said that, because we'll have probably international students who are listening to this. And let me tell you, you leave your country, and yes, you may have your tuition or you may have your visa situation sorted out and all of those things, but there are challenges, the transition that comes with the transition of being a student in the United States. And the lucky thing for me, or the thing for me, was that I had family who was here who helped. That for me at that time was the hand of God again, working through, providing. My job, the transition from being a student visa, recall, to becoming a U.S. resident, how that happened. Again, hand of God, working things out. And at no point during any of this, I saw the end. I was just obedient and willing to walk. And so
I love it. I love it. And you know what's interesting? So here you are, right? And I keep going back. Chemical technology, you know, we similar stories, medical technology at the same university, right? International student to America. You transitioned into nursing, spent over 20 years in nursing, but you knew there was always more, right? And you always had that kind of drive, that kind of ambition. You became a lawyer, joined a law firm. Still wasn't enough. Esquire, I know, right? I'm going to step out on faith again, and I'm going to start my own practice. And that's where you are right now. I am sure that there were so many challenges, and you've already talked about how you deal with. One, you expect them to come, but when they come, you expect that God is going to open up doors and he's going to make it work for you, right? Now you're in your own practice. Talk to us about what that really means for you in terms of where you are right now. I know you got to be proud, because you know I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to start here and I'm going to go back. I am extremely happy that I am a founder, an entrepreneur, a owner of a law firm, practicing attorney. However, I never saw this. Here we go again with the excitement.
Right.
So the plan was finish law school, and I am going to work for possibly, a large law firm, and I am going to grow and be this powerful attorney using my advocacy skills, developing litigation skills and making the most of those opportunities. There are times where your background sometimes can be a little bit of a, how would I say it? I don't want to say it's a two-edged sword, but you have to remember I came from a profession where I was in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what it is to lead a significant number of employees, make decisions on my own, and basically be a boss. So here is my transition
be a boss. Now. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but here am I now transitioning to being a baby lawyer, having to report to a senior partner, doing what we call in law the grunt work. And this happened, by the way, all in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I found in the midst of that, whilst I was learning that presents itself
right
in Althea Bryan Farr's life over and over, the desire for more.
Mm-hmm.
And so whilst my experience in that large law firm, it did come to pass. I did end up in a large law firm in the state of Florida on a great team, great mentors, great connections. There was that thing inside of me where it just didn't feel, the satisfaction was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made the transition after a while to become a part owner in a firm, and quickly realized that what I am looking for in law, it's very hard for another person to see your vision. Mm-hmm. Because when the vision is shared with you about what your career should look like, you are the person that's present, you're the person that wrote it down, you're the person that received it. Mm-hmm. And so nobody else, you can share with them what you want to do. I want to do this area of practice. I want to do this. I want to do that. But not many people are able to see how this works. And so you have to be wise enough to know when to walk away and to launch. And so just professional angst and anxiety and fear, I decided, hey, I'm going to jump. And I started Bryan Farr Health Lawyers with much consternation, with much trepidation in my heart. But seek first the kingdom of heaven,
God, and all
His righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you. I did not jump out of my own volition. Mm-hmm. I moved with a lot of faith, a lot of prayer, discussions with my family, intense family support, mentoring, listening to podcasts, seeking out resources, making connections in the community, and decided I'm going to go for it. If not now, when?
If not now, when? If not now, when? Well,
I think that's a constant theme in my life. I don't set out to have, you have thoughts in your mind. This can happen. It's always when you start putting the plan together and you're getting the inclination to execute. I am not one to sit back and wait.
Right.
Kind of, I don't know if it's good or it's bad. But I act. I act when I sense that there is something that needs to be done. And voila, here we are, Bryan Farr Health Lawyers. We're now 3 years in, and I practice in the areas of health law, as I said before, where I serve nurses. And I have expanded that area of health law to include compliance, regulatory issues, insurance disputes, health insurance disputes. I do personal injury as a part of my firm, a fair amount of employment law as well. Mm-hmm. And again, paths I did not know were going to manifest, And so I, just want to talk about manifestation.
Right.
Manifestation takes planning.
Correct. Correct.
So, you
It's
know,
not, oh, you mean it's not lying on a couch and just saying, I manifest what I'm gonna, oh, okay.
no.
Okay. All right. I hope people are listening. I hope they're listening, right? Now, Althea, you practice healthcare law, right? And
Mhm.
some of us have never ever heard that word. Let's be real. Because when we think about lawyers, we think about criminal law and this law. And talk to people who are, you know, potential clients of yours. What exactly do you do in your space?
So I have a health law firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an area that a lot of people don't know about
Mm-hmm.
because we typically associate lawyers with other areas of practice. But health law is a very large area of practice. And it's a very regulatory intensive area of practice because healthcare is a highly regulated field. We're dealing with the lives of individuals. We're dealing with the lives of people from the stage of birth to death. And so practitioners, the healthcare system must be safe. Healthcare law is an area of law which addresses whether it's a compliance issues, regulatory issues, meaning health on the national level is managed by what we call the Department of Health and Human Services. But on your state level, you have a Department of Health. And there are regulations that practitioners and healthcare organizations must comply with. And this is where the attorney comes in, when you are not in compliance or when you want to do something in the area of healthcare in order to ensure that you are in compliance, health lawyers are typically brought in at that time because they have the knowledge, the skill set to guide you through what could be potential minefields if you do not get it right. So also, when practitioners or healthcare organizations fail to meet the standard required by the regulatory bodies, it behooves you to get an
To go a
attorney.
lawyer, such as a nurse, such as a practicing nurse who may get
Yes.
into trouble on the job or this, you know, from the employee's standpoint, correct?
Correct. Yes, I represent nurses. I have represented pharmacists. The professions before the Department of Health addressing compliance issues, registered nurses who find themselves dealing with board actions where their opportunity to practice, their bread and butter, their livelihood is there's an opportunity for them to lose their license. They hire somebody like me to advocate for them and to help them navigate those, what we would consider, really emotionally charged because it's your livelihood. Mm-hmm. I help you navigate that area to hopefully get you a good outcome.
Okay. And another area that you practice is employment law, just
Yes.
in general. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so here again, one of my whys for going into the practice of law was to advocate. Mm-hmm. And my management background, here again, employment law was not an area that I set out that I'm going to be an employment lawyer. As a matter of fact, it's a small part of my practice, but it is an effective part of my practice because we deal with issues of discrimination. Discriminations claims are typically filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission or the Florida Commission for Human Relations in the state of Florida. And we assist employees who are dealing with discrimination on the job, whether it is racial discrimination, sexual harassment, hostile work environment claims, and we assist them in dealing with these when it gets to the point where the law needs to be involved. And while we would like to think that there are no bad actors who are employers,
No,
there
oh, we know.
There are there are situations where sometimes employers find themselves sleeping at the wheel, mm-hmm. or the proverbial wheel, mm-hmm. and the ship needs to be righted. and a person like me steps in and advocates for that employee, hopefully to bring a bridge to both parties, where we decide that either you part amicably, or if you have terminated the individual, you restore them to a point where you pay for your wrongs. And so I have taken on quite a number of employment cases, and successfully navigated employees away from that negative experience in their life to where they have received some kind of damages, as we call it, for the harm that they suffered. So yes, that's another area of law that I practice in.
Ladies and gentlemen, this woman she's brilliant beyond, I mean, talk about just boldness, right?
That's
Just
about
talk
me.
about, it's you I'm talking about, talk about a self-leader, somebody who embodies what it means to lead self. What advice do you have for people? And you've dropped all kinds of nuggets, because if folks are listening right now, one, they need to really have honed in on the fact that it doesn't matter what challenges you face in life, there's a way forward. Two, the value of faith, right? In that way forward. And what do you believe in? What is your, what do you rely on? Like you said, when mom was gone, you had your faith, right? So we know how important that is. Transitioning, lots of resilience, lots of planning, lots of reinventing yourself, over and over again. I'm going to start calling you the queen of reinvention, Althea. Every time I turn around, you're doing something different. Like you are the queen of reinventing yourself. What advice do you have for individuals listening right now who, especially in a time like this, you have government layoffs, you have, programs being closed with DEI, and I haven't even touched on the fact that not only are you a Black female, but you're a Black Jamaican female. I won't even, that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Yes.
But talk to us a little bit about what kind of advice can you impart, to those listening, young people who are thinking about, how do I get out of this mess? Where am I going to go in life? I may not have all the answers now, but talk to us about some of the lessons that you learned along the way. And what advice do you have for individuals who are looking to pivot, looking to do something different, who are timid or scared of stepping out, not knowing, where they're going to land? Talk to us about that for a little bit.
So first of all, I think I put my glasses on because I feel like I need to get into my professor role. That was another role.
Let's do it.
First of all, you have to have a very strong belief in yourself, that you are enough, that you have all of the tools within yourself to accomplish that which you were created to do. And allow yourself first to embrace those parts of you that show up at times, but many of us suppress because of external forces. You will know, because most people start out with a genuine desire, I'm going to do something. It starts. But what are the factors that cause someone not to execute? It's the external factors, where they start listening to outsiders. They start the noise that hums in your head. What are people going to think about me? I do not have the resources. I don't have the right education. And granted, Dr. Grant, she's a Ph.D. I'm an attorney. But this is for anybody who's listening. Whether you are a janitor who has a desire to start a cleaning business, or you are a practitioner who's looking to move into the space where you are an entrepreneur, that is, you're owning your own business. And you have to have a belief in yourself and in your God-given abilities that you can do it. There are several tips that I have embraced because they are they're so important, and they remain cornerstones my growth. You have to have a certain amount of passion. If you're telling me I want to start a company, and you have not done the research, you've not thought about how much money you can make, that's what fuels you. How much money I'm going to make. This, you have to amp up yourself, as they say. You have to get that passion flowing, that those juices that will propel you when the negative things come. So you need to have clear goals, A. B, discipline. As Shernette said, manifestation does not just happen. You don't go
on the couch.
Let's
have a moment. Let's have a moment. Let's go ahead and
no. You have to have clear goals. Be disciplined. Disciplined with your time. A, you cannot be an entrepreneur and you're not disciplined. You have to be disciplined to know that my work hour starts at 8 o'clock, and because I am a entrepreneur or I'm a founder, my day may not end until 1 a.m. And be prepared to burn the oil.
Right.
How can we do this interview without me saying the heights of great men
reached and kept
were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept,
was toiling upward through the night. That sums it up all. Okay. Be willing to delegate, continuously learn. You have to always be willing to learn. If you're a professional, you cannot call yourself a professional and wanting to explore and expand if you're not a part of your professional organizations. You have to be a financial planner. And I say, in this day and age where we have ChatGPT, we have so many resources, you have Fiverr, you have all of these resources that you can tap into. If you don't have the skill set, pay somebody to help you. Bring in a mentor, bring in a coach. Dr. Grant is a coach. Well, thank you.
Talk to an attorney.
Right.
How do I navigate the space of starting a business, of taking on a venture, networking? I think sometimes we undermine what I call relationship currency. Listen, all together now?
Are we together now?
Yes, we are together now.
Yep.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
You have to build relationships. You have to build relationships with those who've done it before. You do not always have to recreate the wheel. But most significantly, you need to learn how to take care of yourself. I attended Florida Atlantic University as a nurse, but I will tell you that we took a class as a nursing student that to this very day, I remember. I can tell you things we studied in that class, and the class was called Caring for Self. I was taught very early on, and we're coming from the islands where our mental health is not, sometimes we don't embrace our mental health. It's almost as if we want to say we start from our neck down, but that's not the case. We are holistic, WHOLISTIC beings, and we must care for ourselves. We must embody what it means to recharge. We must be willing to walk away when the energy doesn't serve us. We must be willing to pivot when things don't go the way that you think it would go. And then also be willing to let your hair down. Pursue your passions. For me, I love going to the beach. Shernette. You see my beach.
All day long. Even if it's just the feet, I'm looking at walking on the beach all day long.
and that recharges me.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily for me, I live close to the beach. I can get to the beach in no time.
Right.
I spend time by the beach. It saves me. You would not believe how many ideas, how many intense moments of worship or prayer that I have. That's what fuels me. And so whatever fuels you, do not exclude that from your life. All of the things I mentioned, passion, clear goals, discipline, time management, put it together with that bow of self-care, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. Burnout is real.
Oh, it is.
It is real. And so we have to be willing to, while you're making the plan, know that you can't execute.
At all.
Not at all. You have to be whole. And finally, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven.
Seek ye.
Starts there, it ends there.
Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added. Right?
Unto you.
The cattle on the hills are 1,000 hills, and 1,000 hills are his. What say what he can provide for me and you, right?
Yes.
Don't let us turn this into a service now, because we're about to turn this into a church service. You know this. All right. That is amazing. Althea, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. You know, we've gone through just, you know, your reinvention, your building, your growth, the challenges. And I think even so important for people listening or watching to recognize that do not focus on where you're coming from, but be focused on where you're going. As a motherless child, your life could be very different today. Could have been extremely different,
Yes.
right? And it was a choice, and it was intentional. And while your mom had poured into you earlier, you still had the choice. You still had the choice to make good decisions and decide that you always wanted more in life. And that's another lesson too.
Train up the child
in the way that
they should go, and when
they're old, they will not depart.
Not depart from it.
There you go. There you go.
And most of all, handle people with care.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And during those traumatic periods, every single traumatic period in my life, and I haven't disclosed all of them, there were more.
No.
There was always somebody who demonstrated brotherly love and handling me with care. Mm-hmm. Somebody who saw it fit, whether, I know what they're called. They're called destiny helpers.
Are we together now?
All together now. They're called destiny helpers who decided that I was worthy enough for them to pour into me. Mm-hmm. And so how can I not pour back into the people that are part of my life? The students in my little elementary school, through our scholarship ventures with, you know, my mom's memorial scholarship and my father's memorial scholarship, which we have started. Mm-hmm. Because to whom much is given, much is required. Mm-hmm. And so it is not lost on me that this life I now lead, as I continue to grow, that my purpose here on earth is not for me. Mm-hmm. It's not for me to bank the money that I have gained or to make large investments while I say do that.
Balance, okay?
Balance. Be careful to think about the other. Mm-hmm. It's not popular these days.
At all.
Think about the immigrants. Think about the aliens amongst us. Mm-hmm. Think about those that are less fortunate. Females who cannot provide for themselves during very sensitive times. All of these different things, that it's not lost on me that my life is not my own. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I do not take it for granted, because, as you said, could be way different.
Oh, it
could have been way different.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. To whom much is given, much is required. we're gonna pause on that note. Because I have a feeling we're gonna have to be doing. I don't know whether you'll be a lawyer at the time, but we may have to do a part 2 when you have, launched your next growth venture. I'm gonna call it that because I have a feeling that look at her brain. Her brain is already spinning. Althea, you are amazing. You're awesome. I think, of course, people know now what you do, and we will certainly leave your information, your links in the bio, so folks can reach out to you if they're needing a
Thank you.
lawyer. And maybe I'll get some pro bono work just because of this. Will I get some pro bono work? Because
I hope so. I have to give you, first of all, I want to say thank you for deeming me worthy to share this space with you. And you have been a true and exemplary professional. And I'm just proud of the growth that I see and the opportunities that you give professionals like myself to share our journey, and I don't take it lightly. I'm grateful, and my desire for you is to just expand. So thank you for putting me on. Just remember me when the podcast gets nationally
syndicated. There you go.
Oh, I must behave myself. Sorry.
Listen, they don't see. We decided to be really nice and professional and all of that today, right?
Yes, and cute
and all of that. But Althea, you have been a source of strength. You know this. You know how I feel about you. You know how much I admire you. And thank you for being a thought partner in a lot of ways and being there every step of the way without a blink. When I tell you without a blink. So I appreciate you, but thank you for saying that. So Althea, I'm going to let you wrap up. I'm going to let you do the closing remarks. For me, I just encourage people to go out there and really embrace their whys, be bold enough to step into it, because if you are not, things are going to pass you by. They're going to pass you by. And a lot of folks are going through transition right now in all kinds of different areas. You have organizations that are trying to grow. They're trying to scale. And they're struggling. They're struggling with how to do it. And we know a couple of things about how to get it done. So again, we want to be able to support and help others in that work as well. So I'm going to let you wrap up, right? And then all I'm going to say is just ciao to the folks. I'm going to let her do the last words. And we'll see you next time on Leadership Plus with Dr. G as I pass it on to Esquire Bryan Farr.
I just want to say you are enough wherever you are in your journey. Yes, you may need tools, you may need resources, but as an individual, you have the skill set, what it takes to get you to the next part of your journey. Do not be afraid to explore. Do not be afraid to reimagine your life. If you have discontent in your life, it means that there is a place of contentment that you need to pursue. And I say, pursue that place. Do not settle. Do not allow 10 years to pass and you are still thinking about doing something. Learn to be uncomfortable and dissatisfied, recognizing that those are little tools or little propellants to move you forward. Dissatisfaction, missed opportunities, it's the universe, it's the Lord, it's God saying to you, this is not it, and act on it, knowing full well that you're enough and you're worthy.
You're enough and you're worthy. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I've been wanting to do this. And I thank you for taking the time out to make sure that this happened. I'm so glad people got to hear your story. And I'm sure they're going to be motivated by your story, Althea, knowing that if this little girl all the way from the second best parish in Jamaica, Portland, could be sitting here in this space, having accomplished all these amazing things, then anybody else can do it.
Amen.
Anybody else can do it. All right. So Althea, in case nobody told you, you're enough, but you already know that. I love you.
So are you.
You are awesome. And again, Viewers, I'm going to drop her information in the bio so you can reach out if you need to. We're so delighted you decided to join us today on Leadership Plus with Dr. G, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Plus with Dr. G.